Good morning, or good afternoon, or whatever time it is that you are joining us. Welcome to Palomar Unitarian Universalist Fellowship. I'm the Reverend Dr. Beth Johnson, and it is good to welcome you this morning. We begin our services at Palomar Fellowship and all of our public meetings by acknowledging the land that we occupy. We are on the stolen land of the Luiseño Nation and the Kumeyaay Nation. We invite you in your homes to light a candle with us as we acknowledge the land that we're on and encourage you to find out about the land that you're on as well. I want to thank all the participants in this morning's service. Michael Muffson, Leanne Muffson, Kimberly Lilly, Emily Barker, Katya doing TAC. It is great to be together. Now, this morning, we'll be traveling the evolving edge of the spiral of the work that reconnects. The seed teacher of that work, Joanna Macy, developed this spiral, and others have decolonized the work toward what's called an evolving edge. That includes a deep analysis of colonization, white supremacy, racial justice, and other oppressions, as the work was initially conceived around nuclear disarmament and then earth justice. In the spiral, we come from gratitude, name the pain of the world, see with new and ancient eyes, and we go forth. We experience this spiral. We can experience it in projects, in the work that we do, in the trajectory of our lives, and today we experience that in this service. The service this morning is dedicated to Representative John Lewis, whose life taught us how to work for justice with courage, determination, dignity, and love. Rest in power, John Lewis. February 21st, 1940, July 17th, 2020. And to civil rights leader, Reverend Cordy Tindell, or C.T. Vivian. He was a freedom rider, a close friend and lieutenant to the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King, and to many more. Rest in power, Reverend C.T. Vivian. July 30th, 1924 to July 17th, 2020. We witness the power of these men's lives, the transforming power of love, shining a light of truth. My heart is with those for whom this is a deeply personal loss. And I grieve for our nation as we continue to struggle to make manifest the justice that John Lewis and Reverend C.T. Vivian lived for, who put their bodies on the line and were beaten for it. And yet, they held out the hope for a better, a more just world with freedom for all. As we gather today, we do so knowing that the clarion call to building the beloved community rings down through the ages. It rings in our hearts and in our minds and in our bodies as well as in our ears, calling for the transformation of those structures, internal and external, that keep us from fully realizing the dreams of those who fought and died for it so valiantly, so faithfully, so courageously, with the transforming power of radical love. As is our custom, I invite the bell 3 times, once for those who have gone before, once for those who are here now, and once for those who will follow.
Gathered here in the mystery of the hour, gathered here in one strong body, gathered here in the struggle and the power, Spirit, join me. Gathered here in the mystery of the hour, gathered here in one strong body, gathered here in the struggle and the power, Spirit, join me. Spirit, join me.
Beloveds, gathered here, come together here in this hallowed time and this hallowed place wherever you are. In the mystery, the limitless unknown of the hour at this sacred time. In one strong body, breathing together, breathe with me. In the struggle, inner and outer, and the power, the ability to act. Spirit, Holy One, draw near, be close. Be close, Holy One, making manifest the power to act, inner and outer, breathing together at this sacred time, limitless unknown in this hallowed time, we come together. Draw close, spirit, power, and struggle in one strong body of the hour in the mystery. Here gathered we are. Gathered here in the mystery of the hour, gathered here in one strong body from wherever we are, gathered here in the struggle and the power. Spirit, draw near to those here, draw near to those remembering a dream and marching, and again in the streets, in Portland, at the border, in our streets, in the struggle and the power. Spirit, Holy One, draw near, be close, draw near as we travel on the evolving edge of the spiral that has us coming from gratitude, drawn up close and out of our interconnectedness. Spirit, hold us close as we travel to the edge that brings us to naming the pain of the world, going to the edge, to the margins, to know with eyes wide open, that we might see with ancient to new eyes the wisdom of those who have gone before and the fresh vision of those young, those people of color, those gay, those trans, this fusion community that are leading us now. In gratitude, we gather. It is good to be together.
In this service, we invite you into a process. Am I muted? That always happens to me. I can't. Oh, it's good. Sorry, I apologize. Too many things on my desktop this morning, hiding all of the cues and clues. Here we go. In this service, we invite you into a process of reimagining. Let the warmth and the light of this chalice create a brave space for us to do the work of reimagining our futures. Let us work with gratitude for the values of our faith, which encourages us, even demands of us, that we strive to make a just world. Let us strive in gratitude for our capacity to recognize and reconcile our failings. Let this chalice and the history that it represents fuel our hearts, minds, and spirits for the transformational work of reimagining.
Thank you, Michael. Yeah, the cues and clues are all around us. Sometimes they're covered and then they reveal themselves. We remind ourselves when we gather and affirm the power of community that we are a covenanted faith. And what does that mean? Well, it means that being in relationship is messy. It means that being in relationship is an opportunity to humility, to true, authentic, and vulnerable relationship, communication, and being together. Being in a covenanted community as Unitarian Universalists reminds us that we are not bound by creed or doctrine, but we are bound by love. And I would say, as some of you have heard me say before, not a sentimentalized love, but a demanding love, a radical love, a love that it has been said will not let us go, will not let us down, and will not let us off. Here we say that we covenant with each other, and that is true. And I would say, along with Unitarian Universalist theologian and ethicist James Luther Adams, who wrote in the shadow of the Nazi regime as a white Unitarian theologian, is Adams suggested that we are in covenant with God. Yes, with God. Or we might say, with a power greater than ourselves. Or we might say the holy. Or we might say love. But let us say that something extends beyond ourselves. That it is not just us. It is not just the we that gathers, as important as that is. That in the collective community of love, we transcend an individualism that keeps us separate, that fosters institution of separation, racism, capitalism. And perhaps we will find that for some, this power greater than ourselves is the creative interchange, which results from our coming together. And this is the something greater with which we covenant along with each other. For this, I am grateful that there is a moreness, love, God, the spirit of life, to which I also pledge and promise to live deeply from the values of my faith and into the call of love. Here are the values that we as a congregation have articulated, and then I'll invite you into the words of covenant. In mutual love and grace, we journey together, grounded in profound respect for a diversity of beliefs and ideas, sustained by service and shared ministry, enriched through collective spiritual deepening, and a safe environment for all generations to thrive. And this is what we know. Together, we are more than we could ever be alone. Therefore, we promise to practice radical hospitality, mindful communication, and active stewardship. Thus, do we covenant with each other and with the divine. Breathe with me. I don't know how many of you have been able to engage in the breath practice with me of breathing at 10 o'clock, 10 breaths. Boy, 10 breaths take a long time. They actually take a minute, unless you're hyperventilating, which I am not recommending. But this practice of breathing, as you know, is central to my spiritual practice. Whatever practices I have that I may move in and out of, they are all grounded in the breath. And grounded in this opportunity to feel what fuels me. And it connects me with gratitude. Gratitude grounds us. It nurtures us. It stills us and it fuels us so that we can be present to the world in all of its beauty and all of its pain. So this morning, I would invite you to breathe with me again and connect with that for which you are grateful this morning. And I invite you to go ahead and put it in the chat. And just name what it is that you're grateful for today. Allowing the breath to bring you into that place of knowing and awareness. Grandchildren, friends, family, alone time this morning. Family and technology that keeps us together. Birds, for the breeze that you feel in this moment. Supportive community. Beautiful family who've passed but are with. Chattering birds, time in the garden with the birds and the worms. New beginnings, yes. Renewal, pets, guidance, shelter. Spencer who's made pancakes, or Spencer and pancakes. Grateful that there are people are gathering around the country today who are remembering John Lewis. Absolutely. The earth's beauty. My birds, friends. Breathe it all in. And maybe you haven't put something in the chat. Breathing with community. So glad you're here. Family and friends. There's a lot of gratitude for birds, for the rest of nature, for family and community, the things that that are there along with the rest of the pain of the world. Gratitude for connectedness. Gratitude for an internet connection, says Susan, who just moved. Yes. Thank you for that. Thank you for sharing. Breathe it in. Toasted bread and peanut butter and jelly. Peanut butter munching right now. So grateful that we can eat in church. So let that gratitude settle into your body. Just be aware of the gratitude that you feel. Breathe in, thank you. Feel how gratitude connects you to the moment. And we move along the spiral now to name and honor our pain for the world. I know. So many of you are acutely aware daily of the pain of the world, your own pain and the pain of others. Don't worry. Gratitude has grounded you. My teacher, Joanna Macy, says that our pain for the world is a sign of our interconnectedness. In the work that reconnects, we say, in owning and honoring our pain for the world and daring to experience it, we learn the true meaning of compassion, to suffer with. As Joanna has said, we begin to know the immensity of our heart-mind. What had isolated us in private anguish, she writes, now opens outward and delivers us into the wider reaches of our interexistence, which is the truth of our interdependence. We recognize the pain that we feel in response to what is happening in our world, in and to our world. And on the evolving edge, we name the pain of others or ourselves, those of you who suffer from injustice or oppression. Remembering those who chose to bear the pain of the world, like John Lewis, and bear that pain in his own body. And those brave people in the streets right now and at our border. You know, our theme for the summer is thrive. And that's why we're talking about the spiral of the work that reconnects. Thriving and striving into collective liberation. So the idea or theme of thrive wove its way through the various groups and conversations that I had this week. In every group that I was in this week, at least one person shared what makes them thrive, and then named that they could not thrive unless everyone thrived. They could not thrive unless everyone thrived. I heard those words from your lips over and over and over. And that is the call of Black Lives Matter. That is the call for Indigenous rights. That is the call for trans rights and LGBTQ rights, for our immigrant siblings. Nobody thrives unless everybody thrives. We're caught in an inescapable net of mutuality, bound in a single, caught in this web of life. Unless everyone is whole, none of us can be whole. This is such a deep manifestation of an understanding of our interconnectedness. No one is free unless everyone is free. The thing that I've seen happen over my lifetime is a deeper apprehension of that and a widening of that understanding. Breathe with me. What pain do you hold for the world? What is it that you're holding, honoring, naming, experiencing, living, working to transform? And I invite you to go ahead and write that in the chat. I'm not sure what that means. DNIL. Denial of people's rights, inequality in all areas of life, a safety net of children, childcare and healthcare, people's carelessness towards others, people held in detention. There are still children in cages separated from their parents. in this country. Selfishness, lack of empathy, almost 200 changes in immigration policy under this administration. No one can keep up. People's lives are in flux. Devastating impact of COVID on people of color and poor people. Loneliness. Breathe it. It's okay. Suffering for those who have their basic needs taken. As we name failure to understand interconnections during COVID, governmental police in Portland, the ongoing fascism, the earth is suffering, as are all beings. A reminder that's what's happening in Portland has been happening for centuries to Native people, immigrants, Black people. It's just happening to white people now. Beloveds, there is pain in the world. It's an understatement. And you are holding it. We are holding it. When I spent 10 days with Joanna Macy many years ago now at an intensive, she had rituals, has rituals that she's created and the groups have created around honoring and holding our pain for the world. And we had a bowl of tears. And it may seem counterintuitive or unproductive. Why would we name the pain? We name not only our pain, but we name others' pain. Because in so doing, we recognize that everything is connected. The collective liberation recognizes that all of our struggles are intimately connected and that we must work together to create the kind of the world that we know is possible, the kind of world that John Lewis still hoped for, even toward the end. A kind of world that a fusion movement is hoping to create. We believe that every person has worth and dignity, and that within systems of oppression, we know everyone suffers. There's an edge to this evolving work, this spiral. You know, somebody's hurting our people, and it's gone on far too long. And we won't be silent anymore.
Somebody's hurting the people, and it's gone on far too long. Yes, it's gone on far too long. Yes, it's gone on far too long. Somebody's hurting the people, and it's gone on far too long. And we won't be silent anymore. Somebody's caging the children, and it's gone on far too long. Yes, it's gone on far too long. And it's gone on far too long. Somebody's caging the children, and it's gone on far too long. And we won't be silent anymore. Somebody's poisoning the planet, and it's gone on far too long. Yes, it's gone on far too long, and it's gone on far too long. Somebody's poisoning the planet, and it's gone on far too long, and we won't be silent anymore. Sing with me. Somebody's hurting our people, and it's gone on far too long. Yes, it's gone on far too long, and it's gone on far too long. Somebody's hurting our people, and it's gone on far too long, and we won't be silent anymore. Thank you. I could hear you singing with me. In her book, Emergent Strategy, Adrienne Maree Brown shares this call to action. How do we create and proliferate a compelling vision of economies and ecologies that center humans and the natural world over the accumulation of material? We embody, we learn, we release the idea of failure because it's all data. But first, we imagine. We are in an imagination battle. Trayvon Martin and Mike Brown and Renisha McBride and so many others are dead because in some white imagination they were dangerous. And that imagination is so respected that those who kill based on an imagined racialized fear of Black people are rarely held accountable. White imagination has people thinking that they can go from being poor to a millionaire as part of a shared American dream. Imagination turns brown bombers into terrorists and white bombers into mentally ill victims. Imagination gives us borders, gives us superiority, gives us race as an indicator of capability. I often feel I am trapped inside someone else's imagination, and I must engage my own imagination in order to break free.
Imagination is a sort of inner vision that involves all the senses, memory, and intuition. At its most basic evolutionary level, imagination is a survival tool that predates language. We're going to explore our imaginations, ultimately imagining a future, but we're going to start with something a little more familiar. So let's take a moment right now to imagine all the people attending this service. I invite you to close your eyes, notice your breath, imagine your own surroundings with all your senses. Now imagine all those other individuals and families. There's 60 or so logged in right now in their own surroundings. They're all gathered near a device, giving and receiving attention just as you are, sharing the warmth of human connection. Imagine them sharing that warmth with you. Some people you may know, some you don't know. Imagine their environments with all your senses, some in their living rooms, some in their kitchens, some maybe in their cars or in their gardens. Imagine their faces and bodies. Imagine sending them the warmth of human connection and receiving their warmth. Let it radiate from you and through you, warming up this cool Zoom medium. Now slowly open your eyes and allow the imagery, the sensations to continue to resonate. And notice your breath in and out. When Adrienne Marie Brown says Trayvon Martin and Mike Brown and Renisha McBride and so many others are dead because in some white imagination, they were dangerous. Imagination gives us borders, gives us superiority, gives us race as an indicator of capability. She is pointing to how we imagine the present. Each and every one of us has an imagination of the world that we believe is real. How we imagine the world, the narratives that inform our understandings of the world have very real consequences. Philosophers have concluded that the world itself is just the intersection of all our collective imaginations. The world itself is just the intersection of all our collective imaginations. Imagine that. As Reverend Beth was naming and honoring the pain of the world, what did you imagine with all your senses? Close your eyes. Notice your breath. Where did your imagination take you? What did you see, sense? What did you smell, taste, touch? Who did you see? What were they doing? What narratives inform this vision of yours? Now expand your vision and zoom out on it. What more is now included when you zoom out? What were you missing from your initial imagination? What else is there? How did your narrative limit your imagination? Zoom out even more. See, look for, sense all the connections between the many suffering, oppressed injustices that are happening simultaneously in our world, that we hold in our hearts. Can you imagine the interconnections between all of these phenomena? Try changing your perspective completely. Imagine this vision through another person's narrative, maybe someone very different from you, maybe even the narrative of someone you disagree with. Where did their narrative come from? Return to your breath. Open your eyes. The disruption caused by the twin pandemics, COVID-19 and systemic racism, has cracked open the dominant narratives of our time, revealing the multitude of injustices embedded within our twisted and tangled interlocking mesh of social systems for all to recognize. While training for the Poor People's Campaign 40 Days of Nonviolent Moral Fusion Direct Action in 2018, I created a diagram to visualize this problem. I'm going to share it with you on my screen. And for those of you who don't have the privilege or the access to see this, it's in the chat. And I hope that you can just imagine all these interconnections. When faced with the overwhelming anxiety of uncertainty in the face of a tangled and entrenched world of injustices, I thrive by devoting my energy to reimagining the future. In the midst of dystopia, I give way to my deepest utopian yearnings, knowing that solutions for change are born only in the space of imagination. What if we converted all, or maybe most, or even just some of our anxiety energy, which paralyzes us in the present, into imagination energy, which propels us into the future? Along with highlighting the entangled systems of injustice, the twin pandemics also reveal the interconnectedness of our efforts to dismantle and transform these systems. So, in this moment, I want to imagine not some like distant utopian possibility, but a very real possibility of an active and engaged allyship across all our movements for justice and collective liberation. In a recent interview, Ta-Nehisi Coates reversed his generally pessimistic view. He said this: "I can't believe I'm going to say this, but I see hope. I see progress right now at this moment. This is the first time that I think a lot of us," and he's referring to Black people in that moment, "that a lot of us have felt that the battle was legitimately joined not just by white people, but other people of color. When I hear that brother in Minneapolis talk about how his store was burned down and him saying, 'Let it burn,' that's a very different world." This summer, I've seen calls from many organizations that do not have a primary focus on racial justice to show up at Black Lives Matter protests. I've seen organizations and institutions such as my own Palomar College commit to transforming their culture through an anti-racism lens. I've heard so many public figures acknowledge that police violence against people of color and mass incarceration are connected to systemic poverty, failures in education policy, healthcare policy, food policy, environmental policy, housing policy, immigration policy, labor policy, and a system built on the patriarchal ideology of domination through violence. They're all saying it now. They're seeing with new eyes. I sense that we are approaching the tipping point. I imagine a very near future in which a critical mass of people join in the struggle in any way they can and synergize their once separate efforts with a kind of radical solidarity that channels all our efforts with the recognition that an injury to one is an injury to all. One great model for this work is the Poor People's Campaign, with its determination to create a fusion coalition challenging the 4 pillars: poverty, systemic racism, the war economy, and ecological devastation. It recognizes that our collective efforts can unsettle the distorted narratives that normalize bigotry and injustice. Each one of us has the power to examine and shift our own narratives, to challenge false narratives when we encounter them, and to thrive in an evolving vision of systemic justice. Let's take a moment now and imagine this very near future where all of our movements work together, support each other, show up for each other. This is what Dr. Martin Luther imagined as a new, unsettling force. Yes, we are a new, unsettling force.
We are a new, unsettling force, and we are powerful, a new, unsettling force, and we're here, a new, unsettling force for liberation, and we got nothing to lose but our chains are a new, unsettling force, and we are powerful, a new, unsettling force, and we're here, a new, unsettling force for liberation, and we got nothing to lose but our chains.
when I see that video, it reminds me of all the times that we've sung it in the campaign here in San Diego, in Sacramento, in Washington, D.C., and in 46 states. Yes, those words, actually the words of the song, are taken from something that Dr. King had said, that we could be a new unsettling force. And so let's, shall we? Thank you, Michael, for inspiring our imagination, imagining that we could see with new and ancient eyes, the ancient eyes that allow us to remember and be influenced by the vision of the past, and the fresh eyes that allow us to see possibilities that hitherto had been unimagined and that we cannot ourselves even imagine, because we are co-creating that as we go along. But we have a vision of what could be, a vision of the beloved community, the not yet always coming into being community of justice and of love. So we have gone from gratitude. We have named and honored the pain for the world. We have been brought into the imagination of seeing with new and ancient eyes. The next edge of the spiral is going forth. We go forth into the actions that call to each of us, according to our situation, according to our gifts, according to our limitations, according to what is possible with others whenever possible and wherever possible. We lay a plan, we step out, we do it together, we fail, we come back together, we do the messiness of coalition building and fusion work like we do in the Poor People's Campaign. Joanna Macy has written, we don't wait for a blueprint or a fail-proof scheme. For each step will be our teacher, bringing new perspectives and opportunities. Even when we don't know that we'll succeed in a given venture, or when we don't succeed, we're grateful for the chances that we took and the lessons that we learned. In our going forth here in our community, we live our values by sharing half of our undesignated collection with a local nonprofit organization. And this quarter, it goes to an organization called Produce Good. I can't think of anything else that I'd rather do than produce good. Produce Good was nominated by Alan White and affirmed by the board. We're going to learn about them in a video to familiarize yourself with them. And when we're done with the video, then you'll have an opportunity to give, if you are in a position to give, and to continue to make your pledge. We understand that not everybody is in that position. And remember that there's help for you too, if you are in a position where financially it is difficult for you at that time, or there are needs that you have. Do not forget that, okay? Promise? Okay. Now, there are several ways for us to continue to give in the midst of our shelter in place. You can do it the old-fashioned way and write a check and mail it to the office. You can set up auto payments, or you can pay it through our database. It's very easy to donate through text to give, which you'll see in a moment after we show our video. And then after the video, the instructions will be in the screen. But I just want you to learn about our plate share for the quarter, Produce Good.
While food banks all over the country deal with excessive demands and low supplies due to the coronavirus,
grocery stores tell us that they are struggling with some supply chain issues.
Farmers are destroying their crops. it's a transportation and grocery store issue for those trying to get milk to market.
Not enough truck drivers, not enough shelf stockers.
As unemployment levels continue to surge, more and more people are in need of food.
With so much waste and so much need, we knew we had to do something. Produce Good was able to quickly pivot its gleaning operations to rescue thousands of pounds of fruit weekly and deliver to local agencies.
We do have a lot of folks who are out of work at the moment. We are seeing a lot of those families come in now to be able to offer items like this that they can use to cook. It's just really a blessing.
Using small crews, Produce Good worked daily to glean and distribute 8,000 pounds a week to local food pantries in San Diego. Providing 24,000 servings of much-needed, nutrient-rich fruits and vegetables to the ever-growing food insecure.
We pick lemons, we pick grapefruits, we pick oranges, we pick many things, and I love in this hard time, the people, my team, they keep working because we love this project, and we are doing something for the community.
Sometimes Produce Good was the only part of the food supply chain that was working in the first few weeks of COVID. Our community-based food recovery model could source surplus and distribute to the need in less than 12 hours.
It's ridiculous that we have the amount of food that we have here in coastal Southern California and that people are going hungry. There is plenty of food for everybody, but it is all about getting it from where it's being grown to the people who need it, and that's what you all do so well.
We can work for helping people and make a better community for everybody.
Produce Good. We empower communities to feed themselves.
I just seen that video a few times, and I'm so grateful for the work that they're doing. And we'll learn more about them. I'll be hopefully having a representative from the organization join us in a service coming up. And grateful for your ongoing support of our community and of the wider community, because that's part of our active stewardship. That's part of what that means. So this going forth is also a call. Can you hear it? It's a call. It's a call to do, as John Lewis put it, get into good trouble. Let's not shy away from trouble. Let's make good trouble. I'm reminded of hearing Sister Simone Campbell, one of the nuns on the bus at General Assembly a while back. You remember, Katia? When the nuns on the bus were doing a poverty tour, and a reporter was riding with them and said, other people seem to walk the other way from trouble. You walk to trouble. It's kind of, when I think about John Lewis, I also think about that. In Across That Bridge, A Vision for Change and the Future of America, John Lewis wrote, this is for you. He didn't write that. I'm saying that. You are a light. You are the light. Never let anyone, any person, or any force dampen, dim, diminish your light. Study the path of others to make your way easier and more abundant. Lean toward the whispers of your own heart. Discover the universal truth and follow its dictates. Release the need to hate, to harbor division, and the enticement of revenge. Release all bitterness. Hold only love, only peace in your heart, knowing that the battle of good to overcome evil is already won. Choose confrontation wisely, but when it is your time, don't be afraid to stand up, and speak out against injustice. If you follow your truth down the road of peace and the affirmation of love, if you shine like a beacon for all to see, then the poetry of all the great dreamers and philosophers is yours to manifest in a nation, a world, and a beloved community that is finally at peace with itself. May it be so. What an order. So on this spiral of the work that reconnects, beloveds, remember to come from gratitude, to name the pain of the world and know that your ability to feel it is a sign of your interconnectedness and our call to collective liberation. See with new eyes. Follow the others who are seeing with new eyes. The young, Black, Indigenous, people of color, trans, disabled, who are leading these movements. Join the movement for Black Lives, or Justice for Black Lives, tomorrow, June 20th, for a strike for Black Lives. It's endorsed by the Fight for 15 in a union, the Poor People's Campaign, SEIU, Service Employees International Union, many, many other organizations. Now, I know not everybody can strike all day tomorrow, and there aren't any actions in San Diego. However, one of the actions that you can take is go to the website and pledge the 8-minute and 46-second pledge at noon, wherever you are. The organizers say take a knee, be silent, or walk out of your job for 8 minutes and 46 seconds. Join the San Diego Poor People's Campaign this Thursday at 6:30 as we hold our open house for those who are interested in working together here in San Diego with the Poor People's Campaign. And just know that wherever you are, there is work that you can do and that you are not alone in doing the work. That in the going forth, we create the path and we return again to the spiral of the work that reconnects. We come back to gratitude and we enact the spiral again in our lives. So as we stay away, we also stay connected. Please join me in our Tallis extinguishing words. Although we extinguish this flame, we carry in our hearts the light of truth, the warmth, isn't that beautiful? The warmth of community and the fire of commitment until we are together again. Can we just look at that for a moment? And can we just give deep bows and props to Michael Muffson for the beauty that you bring? Michael is arts and culture in San Diego. I'm part of the arts and culture of the Poor People's Campaign in California. And I just want to thank you for your contribution to the service and the beauty that you bring and the depth. So thank you, Michael and Leanne, for your beautiful song, and Kimberly for, holding us with music and lifting us up, and Katya and Emily and all of you. We'll invite you to sing along with the video that was created for the UUA, Poor People's Campaign, Leadership Council's worship service on June 14th. It's Emma's Revolution with Reggie Harris. Let's go out and sing.
Our people gonna rise. Our people gonna rise. Our people gonna rise. Listen to our cries through the pain and lies. Our people gonna rise. Our people gonna sing. Our people gonna sing. Our people gonna sing. In spite of everything, hear our freedom ring. Our people gonna sing. Our people gonna fight. Our people gonna fight for what we know is right. Marching to the light. Our people gonna fight. Our people gonna breathe. Our people gonna breathe. Our people gonna breathe. Whatever you believe, you have the right to breathe. Our people gonna breathe. Our people gonna pray. Our people gonna pray. Our people gonna pray. Take our rights away, see you on election day. Our people gonna pray. Our people gonna rise. Our people gonna rise. Our people gonna rise. Listen to our cries through the pain and lies. Our people gonna rise. Our people gonna rise. Our people gonna rise. Our people gonna rise. Our people gonna rise.
Yes. Yes, our people gonna rise. What I'd like you to do as we're on our way, go ahead and put what you're going forth will be in the chat as we start to wind up. The webinar will close and Katya and Emily are gonna walk us through what happens next. But go ahead and put your going forth in the chat, if you will, for me. And I'll be saving that for our work coming forth. And yeah, we will have some coffee hour time. And yeah, so why don't, and hi to Maritza, our other tech person. I'm sorry I didn't see you there. Thank you for being here. Okay, y'all. I think that's it, right? We're gonna gather for coffee.
Wrote it Katya, and Katya's gonna talk to us about patio time.
Patio time.
Absolutely, but I have to hear it because otherwise it's not Sunday when we invite people to go in peace, be makers of peace.
Shanti, Shanti, Shanti.
Thank you. Now it's Sunday. Thanks everyone for being here this morning and for joining us at Palomar UU Fellowship for our Sunday service. In 10 minutes, we are going to come back together for our virtual patio. And what that means is that this webinar will be closing in about 2 minutes. So you are welcome to hop off now and go ahead and grab your coffee. When we come back together on the meeting, we will be able to see you and hear you. So do whatever you need to do to be prepared for that. We look forward to seeing you in just a couple minutes. And I think that the link is in the chat so everyone can join the virtual patio where we have breakout sessions and have an opportunity to have community and small groups and meet and talk with everyone. When you join, please use your first and last name so that we know who is joining us. And thanks again for joining us this morning at Palomar UU Fellowship. This webinar will close in about 1 minute and we'll see you at 11:15 in the virtual patio.
Thank you so much, Katya.
Absolutely.
Appreciate it.
It's that mute thing. everybody.
Bye. We'll see you in the virtual chat at 11:15.